All right, it says, what is the output of print ABS negative 90? So let's see what that is. And it says, show how to use an example of ABS. So we're just going to do print ABS. And then inside of there, we're going to put a negative number. That thing says 90. You can use whatever number. Does anybody know what is ABS stand for? Yes, Cage.
I think it means it shows the numbers in like a certain way in output.
Yeah, that's not specific enough for me. What do you think?
Absolute.
Absolute value. So the absolute value of negative 156, that basically means how many spaces is it from 0. My thing here is giving me problems, so I have to refresh this. Alright, let's see what it does. So it is 546. Alright, I'm probably going to be going through this kind of quickly because we got quite a bit to do, but here we go. It says give an example of, and then it's got a bunch of them. Upper, lower, POW, help, list, min, max, sum, is lower, and is upper. I'm going to start off with, I'm going to say word is equal to, and I'm going to say hello. So I've made a variable and I've stored the word hello in it. Then I'm going to do print word dot upper. That's going to print the word in uppercase. Then it wants an example of lower, so instead of using upper, I'm going to use lower here. And that's going to print the word in lowercase. I'll change that to a capital H so we can see that it actually works. Next one says, we can use this is lower and is upper. We can show how that would work. We'll do print word dot is lower, and then same thing with the next one, is upper. Those are going to return true or false for if it is upper or lower. They're both false because it has, both of them have, they're not all upper or lower. If I change it, one will turn upper, or is lower is true now. Next one says let's do POW. We'll do POW. So we'll do print POW, and POW works for, it gives you give it two numbers, and it's 2 to the power of, and I'm gonna say 8, which I think is 256. Yes. So it takes the first number and raises it to the power of the second number, which is 8. How do we use the help function? You just type help. And then inside of those parentheses, you're going to put what you need help with. So we'll use POW for that. And it'll tell us how the POW function actually works right there. Okay. Now we need to make a list, so I'm going to say, let's do string is equal to, this is a string, and we want to convert it into a list, so I'm going to say list underscore string is equal to list, and I'm going to put string. So that is going to take this string that we created, and it's going to turn it into a list. So we could print that out to prove that that's actually going to do that. Print list underscore string. I'm also going, right here, my line 12, I'm going to comment this one out, because if I don't, it's going to print a whole bunch of stuff that's really not that important for us. So I'm going to comment that one out. So run that. And now we have our string that got turned into a list. All right, next one says, show how to make a multi-line comment. There are two different ways. One way to make a multi-line comment is to use 6 quotations, 3 at the start and 3 at the end. This is a comment. Actually, I could say multi-line comment. Another way to make a multi-line comment is to use 6 apostrophes, 3 at the start and 3 at the end. Next one says, print a line with an apostrophe in the middle and with a quote in the middle. So I'll show you how to do that. So that's basically saying it wants us to make a string. So there's 2 different ways to make strings. You can use the apostrophes. This is a string. Or you can use quotes. Print quotes. This is a string. If I want to print out an apostrophe in the string, I cannot use the one that has the outside of also apostrophes. Watch what happens if I try to put an apostrophe right here. It kind of breaks up my line. It's looking for the beginning and the end. So the end is an apostrophe, the beginning is an apostrophe. So I can put a quote in the beginning for this one like that, and it's not going to cause any problems there. But the opposite is true for this. If I tried to put a quote in the middle for this one, it's going to give me that same problem, but I can put an apostrophe in the middle of this one, and it will not give me any problems. So if you want to use the quotes or an apostrophe, consider what is on the outside of your string. Next one says, what is a variable? So I'm going to do print. Somebody have a definition for a variable? Do y'all remember what I told you that is? Yes, sir, Mr. Cass?
It is box.
A variable is a box to store information for later use. A variable is a box to store information for later use. There's an example for you right there. What is an integer is the next one. You would be surprised how many people got this wrong in this test. What is an integer? So just shout it out if you know it. What? It's a number. It is not just a number, it's a whole number. An integer is a whole number, either positive or negative. So is 1.5 an integer? No, it's not. That has a decimal in it. That is not a whole number. 1.5 is actually a float. A float is a decimal number. Like 1.2 or 1.5 or 1.8 blah blah blah. What is a float? A float is a decimal number, and then I give you some examples like 1.2, 1.5, 1.84, or 1.85478. Next one says colors. Print out colors, green, orange, purple with one line, and then it shows you how it wants you to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock these colors here, and I'm going to make a comment above them so I can see what number is where. So red is 0, blue is 1, green is 2, orange is 3, purple is 4, and pink is 5. So if I want to print that out, I'm going to say print, I'm going to reference colors, and just like my example over here, it has square brackets with a colon, and it wants us to know from what number to what number. So we want to do green, orange, purple. Starting with 2, and this is the part which tricked a lot of people, and I do not blame you, but that doesn't mean we don't need to know. So we're starting with green, and we want to end at purple, so what should this last number be here?
4.
So 4 is the number you would put, and let's see what happens when we put 4. If I run that, oh my goodness, oh, there it goes, it did it. It prints out green and orange. It did not print out purple. So we need to put 5, that's right. It prints out from 2 all the way up to, but not including the last number. So that is very tricky, but we still have to know that. So I'm going to put at the end a comment here. I'm going to put tricky. Because you would think it would just be from 2 to 4, but it's actually from 2 all the way up to 5. It does not include that last one. Very tricky. Still something you got to remember. Next one says, make this into a list with split or R split. So it's talking about this string here. I'm going to unlock that string. Now, I ended up giving everybody an extra, I gave you the points back for this question because it has 2 answers and I didn't consider the second one. So I went ahead and refunded all your points for this question. But we're going to go ahead and go over it. So if I do print my string dot split. Now, when you use split, what it's doing is it's going to this string and it's trying to split up the string into a list. And split will automatically look for spaces and go ahead and split the string up. But there is also a second way to do that. You can say print my string dot R split, and that will actually ask you what do you want to split by. And so inside of here, we're having to tell it we want to split by the spaces. That's what that is right here. So I want to split by spaces. So if I run this, you'll see it gives me both. I would really like to go to the Bahamas. So it has both of those, and they're both lists. This one split it up with this function, and this one split it up with this function, and it also has the space. It tells you what it wants to use to separate it up by. Next one. Show how to use if statements. And then it shows the less than, greater than, and greater than or equal to sign. So I'm just going to make some here. I'm going to say if, actually I need to make some variables. I'm going to say x is equal to 1, y is equal to 2. Then I'm going to say if x is greater than y, print a. And I'll do another one. If x is less than y, print b. If x is greater than or equal to y, print c. I'm not really concerned with the truth of these statements. I just want to know that you know how to create them. So this is an if statement. and it checks the condition. Is X larger than Y? If it is, it will print out A. On the next one, it says if X is less than Y, it's going to print out B. And then on the last one, X can be greater than or equal to Y, and it will print out C. That's what this one says here. The next one says, what are strings? And I already had a couple of you say that earlier. What are strings? What's our definition for a string? Yes, sir.
Words for humans.
They are words for humans. Strings are words for humans. Noah, you should be typing this stuff in.
Oh, okay.
The next one says numbers. And then it wants you to use min, max, and sum on this list. I'm going to put this next one on another line here. I just took that comment at the end and moved it down, and I'm going to unlock this list of numbers here by getting rid of that. And it wants us to use min, max, and sum on this list. We've already done that above, so you should know how to do it. We're going to do print, and we'll do min of numbers. So the list of numbers goes inside of the function. So we're printing out what is the minimum number. And I can just copy this and paste it a couple more times because we're going to use max and we're going to use sum. And those look very similar. So we have print min numbers, print max numbers, and print the sum of these numbers. So what those do is it finds the minimum number, then it finds the maximum, and then it adds them all together. Next one says, how can you print 20 lines of blank space? Yeah. And it wants it on one line. It doesn't want it on 20 different lines. So print as string with \n. And how do I get 20 of those? Times 20. That's right. Times 20. So what that's going to do, it's going to take this blank line here. This says put a blank line, and then this says times 20. I want 20 blank lines. What are for loops? Anybody got a definition for a for loop for me? Yes, Cage, you're on it today. What's a for loop?
I think it is one of the loops next to while.
It's a loop that's like while. Do you know how it works?
That's an excellent question.
Yes, sir. You got your hand up.
For loops, like, basically it's just for this many numbers and this number do this.
So what I think he's trying to say is a for loop runs on a list one time for each element in the list. So a for loop uses a list, and for every single element in the list, it runs one time. So you take the list and do some code for one, then go to the next one, do some code, and then the next one, and the next one. And we'll give an example of that here. Well, actually, we can give the example right now. Let's do the example right now. So I'm going to use numbers here. I'll say for x in numbers. And I want to print out, I don't know, let's print out the word hammer. So, how many times is hammer going to print? Well, all we have to do is go look at this list of numbers and count how many elements there are. Because if we read the definition, it says a for loop runs on a list one time for each element in the list. So there are 12 numbers in this list. So if I run this, it's going to print out the word hammer 12 times. Now, if I wanted to actually print the numbers, I could do comma X, and what it's going to do is it's going to go to the first number, which is 5. It's going to store it into X, and then it's going to run the code. So then it's going to say hammer 5. Then it's going to go back up to the top, make 15 X, so X is going to be 15. Then it'll print hammer 15. So you'll see when I run this, it will have printed 12 times, once for every single number in the list, just like that. That is how a for loop works. For loops are good for using them on lists of elements. The next one says, what are while loops? Anybody have a definition for me for that one? Yes, sir, again.
It is a loop that runs while something is or is not true.
A while loop is a loop that runs while the condition is met. It looks a lot like an if statement. So if you look at our if statement up here, it has the word if, and then it has a condition. A while loop is going to continue to run the code as long as that condition is met. Yes, sir. That's okay. So what we can say here is, I'm going to say while x, and I'm going to give y'all, y'all probably know this, but exclamation mark equals, what does that mean? Not equal, yes sir. While it does not equal 0, we're going to print hammer. Actually, I'm going to use hammer. So this is going to print as long as x is not equal to 0. The last time we changed x, we used negative. It is negative 787 because this list stored it into x right there. So that was the last one. So if I run this, this is never going to stop running because I never changed what x is. So inside of here, I'm going to say x plus equals 1. And now the loop will actually stop running. It's going to start at negative 787. Then it's going to run one time. It's going to add 1 to it. And then it's going to print out hammer. So what will end up happening is after I run this, it's going to print hammer 792 times. Well, this code, I have to refresh my screen here. Let's do that.
Instead of hammer, I typed in the Zynga.
Alright, so if I run that, you're going to see a bunch of hammers. And if I put comma X, you can actually see which hammer it's on. And so if I run this again, you can see where it started all the way at that last number, which was 787. So hammer negative 787, and then it just kept on taking away until it got all the way to 0. Alright, that is the end of this assignment. This assignment is highly important because you get your points back on your test if you completed it. So not only is this a regular grade, it will also return points that you lost on your test, half of them. So make sure that you're taking screenshots and turn in a link. Take a screenshot of the screen, turn it in, and put the link in the box there. So I can click it and double check if I need to.
Can you zoom out so I can snip it?